On this episode, we discuss 6 weeks.
It's been 6 weeks since you met that kid. Cocked your head to the side and said you're Dudley. I don't know the rest of the lyrics.
Like those are the real lyrics. I don't know.
That's what it says on my phone.
The rest.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
Hey, I'm Stuart Wellington. Certified beef 7 days a week. That's me, Stuart Wellington.
What does that mean, Stuart?
That I'm certified grade A beef? I don't know. That like a guy came and checked my marbling.
This is your new slogan? You're branding yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right time, right?
I mean, what I like about it is your beef. You don't take any time off. You're not like lazy God taking Sundays off from creating the universe. You're like, I'm beef all the time. I never stop being beef.
7 days a week, 23 hours a day.
Unlike the beef you buy at the grocery store, as soon as midnight hits on Sunday, it turns into a pumpkin. No, thank you. I want my beef 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the exact opposite of what I was going to say, which is that, to be fair, all beef is beef 7 days a week. So to elevate it above God just because God took a day off after creating the universe seems a little strange. But
I mean, to be honest, he did a pretty slapdash job. I think we can all agree the universe has a lot of rough edges. Hey, my name's Elliot Kalin, but I want to introduce our big guest today, who I'm very excited about.
Uh-huh.
Our guest is a film critic and a writer. He writes reviews for The Wrap. He co-hosts a number of great movie podcasts: Linoleum Knife, A Film and a Movie, Breakfast All Day, and Maximum Funds Own, not Maximum Phones On, Maximum Funds Own, Who Shot Ya? And he's the author of the classic Christmas film guide, Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. It's Alonso, Duralde, I always forget.
I answer to either. Duralde.
But which do you use?
Yeah.
I usually say Duralde.
Duralde,
Technically, it's Duralde, but I never want to make like white guys sound like they're saying Nicaragua. So,
Thank
Duralde
you.
Okay, thank you, because I was having some empanadas for lunch, and my son...
And I had a croissant. It's the same
and then I decided
right?
to have a big bowl of borscht. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Man,
Dan, what foreign foods do you want to do the
corner.
accents for?
I'm uncomfortable with the whole thing. Hey,
I was having some sushi.
Oh,
right?
No. What was that? Man. Like a Spanish thing?
Me laddie, it's some spaghetti and meatballs.
Oh,
that's how you do it, right?
One.
But Alonso Duralde, and I'm very excited to have him here. One, because he's great, and I'm a big fan of his podcast. Two, he's just a super great guy and a really nice guy. When I first moved to Los Angeles, he took me to get ice cream, just me and him, and it was very sweet. And it was a great way to welcome me to a new city. And three, because it's Christmas time, everybody, right? Uh-huh. So who better to talk Christmas movies and Christmas stuff than the man who literally wrote the book on Christmas movies?
Yeah, although we asked, we asked for a couple of options of holiday movies, and look, I'll take a little bit of the blame on myself.
Okay.
I said, 6 weeks, like a Dudley Moore movie from the 80s. Let's do that. That'll be dumb. Thinking that'll be like a dumb, like Christmas comedy, not doing any research into it. And then to find that this holiday movie, this so-called holiday movie, is only a holiday movie in that the Nutcracker Ballet figures into the plot at the very end. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it's a tearjerker about a young girl dying of leukemia. So also,
if it had been Swan Lake, it could be a summer movie and no one would care.
Yeah, exactly. And to that end, also, yes, content warning that this movie that we're doing is all about a child dying of a disease. So if that is something you're sensitive to...
It is barely window dressing, Dan.
I would say it is all about midlife romance between a woman with a very ill-considered perm and a very short man who is an American politician, despite obviously being English.
That is all well and good. That is all well and good, and it may be accurate. But if you are sensitive to the idea of a child dying of a disease, it does not matter the degree to which the film is about that.
You're right. Okay.
We will take that about as seriously as the film.
Yeah, which is not
that
very.
Is something. something to make clear that if we make fun of it, it is only because it is a maudlin melodrama, and not
not because the idea of a child with a terminal disease is inherently hilarious.
No.
So
only in the context of 6 weeks.
Alonso, why did you pick this movie? Are you a huge Dudley Tyler Moore fan? That's their couple name, right?
It should be. They would have been portmanteaued if anyone had seen this movie. There are some Christmas bombs out there certainly, and I didn't want to subject
Cambodia,
you to something
right?
like,
or was it Vietnam?
Say what
the
now?
Christmas bombing in, was it Cambodia or Vietnam?
Oh God!
I believe it was Cambodia, but the way to bring the room down.
You mentioned Christmas bombs. It's the most obvious Christmas bomb. They were really dropping bombs on Christmas. But anyway, you were saying there's a lot.
Correct.
Well, yeah, I think Henry Kissinger may have also been responsible for the Nutcracker 3D, where they put hip-hop lyrics onto Tchaikovsky and work in Holocaust metaphors, and Nathan Lane plays Albert Einstein. And I was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Yeah. But I did toss a couple out, and I just thought that 6 weeks is... it's a flop in so many ways, because not just critically and with audiences, but it's one of those movies that derailed people's careers. Like Dudley Moore, hot off Arthur; Mary Tyler Moore, hot off Ordinary People; Tony Bill, the director, hot off My Bodyguard. And this collectively did for their careers what Moment by Moment did for Lily Tomlin and John Travolta.
So
it launched them to new heights, took them into the stratosphere, is what you're saying.
I mean, it is such a huge bomb that despite having, at the time, big stars and it being clearly, like a Hollywood-produced picture, I had never heard of it. And if you go to like IMDb, I believe there's like 2 reviews you can find from non-professional reviewers and maybe like 5 from professionals.
Yeah,
so.
if you type in 6 weeks into IMDb, they're like, not found. And you're like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Now,
that one.
Do you mean 2 weeks starring Buster Keaton? No. That's not the one.
Alonso, I want to ask you about Dudley Moore, because here's the thing. So
Since you are Dudley Moore's authorized biographer, you're the man to go to.
I think in terms of just acting, like Dudley Moore gives the best straight acting performance in this film. But like, let us stipulate that I did say straight acting performance as opposed to a comedy performance. You are about 10 years older than I am.
wow.
So you lived through more of the Dudley Moore boom than I did. Can you explain to me why he was funny? Because I've never understood it.
There was this magic snapshot of time in which you could make the original Arthur that was all about a total alcoholic, and it was still somehow charming and funny.
Asshole. He's an asshole.
And asshole.
He is also
super rich.
He's a
and
rich,
the movie
drunk
10,
asshole.
where he's just like a horrible womanizer.
Yes, and being very mean to his wife, Julie Andrews, by cheating on her with Bo Derek. And, of course, Foul Play, where he plays like a complete sort of
he's a rapist,
sex toy-obsessed pervisoid, which was really his launching pad in America. Mm-hmm. He had obviously performed with Peter Cook for years and had done movies like Bamboozled,
Bedazzled.
Hey, I want to see... Sorry, yes.
Although Dudley Moore and Bamboozled would be a very interesting movie. That'd be a very interesting choice.
I guess.
Could we make that happen?
I guess he'd play the TV executive character.
No, Dan. No. He's playing the well. Anyway, we don't need. Anyway, he's gonna play one of the. He's gonna play one of the
mind
black
reel.
Yeah.
Bedazzled, the original Bedazzled, not to be confused with the brilliant remake with the Brendan Fraser. But after Foul Play, it was like America could not get enough of that short perv, and then Arthur was like, I want more of that short drunk perv, and so then that led us to 6 weeks, where as Elliot points out, he is running for Congress while clearly British, and also is the funny politician, because that Dudley Moore can't not be quippy in this. Yeah. He also, by the way, let's not lose sight of the fact he contributed the score to this movie, which is oppressively terrible.
Yes, yeah.
No, it is a terrible score, but I believe it won like a Golden Globe. I was doing some like behind the scenes, like. I think it won or was nominated for a Golden Globe. I think Dudley Moore was nominated for a Golden Globe, and Mary Tyler Moore was nominated for a Razzie for this. So
Well, the early 80s Golden Globes was really like the peak period of like, let me fly you to Vegas for a weekend.
That is true.
You know, this is right in the just before the whole Pia Zadora thing blew up in their faces. But you could really charm, wine, dine, and gift your way into a Golden Globe nomination in that period. Not that he did, mind you.
No. But I think, Dan, to defend Dudley Moore somewhat, his early stuff is really funny. Like if you see Beyond the Fringe, or you see what's left of what survives of his work with Peter Cook from then, it is really funny. But it's like by 6 weeks, he seems to be on that path that a lot of comedy actors go to, where they're like, I don't need to be funny, I'm charming. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm an actor. So it's like he's so not funny in this, even though he's supposed to be the funny politician. And it's such a snapshot of a time when it's just taken for granted that he is somewhat of a vaguely liberal politician. He seems to have no firm stands on anything. He never gives the audience or the voters a reason that they should vote for him.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the real glaring weak spots of the movie is that we don't really understand his politics, right, Elliot?
Well, more that like I don't care if he's elected to Congress. Like I don't know why he wants to be elected to Congress. So if the movie is about a little girl who becomes so devoted to him that she wants to spend the last moments of her life getting him into the Capitol, it's like when she's like, "What do you think about poor people?" He goes, "I'd like to help them." "What do you think about wars?" "I'd like to stop them." "You're my man." "Okay, great." Like it's just I don't want to see him doing a lot of stuff, but he makes such a big deal in the movie about how he's not about issues. He's about, whatever. And it's just like, it just feels a different version of
I'm not about issues. I'm about spending a lot of time away from my wife.
Yeah.
And frankly, away from the campaign. Like, but
nice. Elliot's
also,
keeping his eyes on the prize.
No, but it is a movie where the hero basically abandons his family. And there's the scene we'll get to, I guess, where his son goes, "I get it, Dad." And it's like, wait, hold on a second. Like that's not the conversation they should have.
This movie feels like it was adapted from a "Am I the asshole?" post on Reddit. Like you read the headline, you're like, "Abandons your family, what an asshole," and then you get to the bottom, you're like,
Well, it feels like that's Dudley Moore's filmography, I guess. Look, I'm a rich drunk guy, but people love me. Am I the asshole? Look, I saw this white girl with dreads on the beach, and I had to have her. Am I the asshole? Like, yeah I guess that's. Look, I'm an advertising executive, and I'm not doing good work. So they threw me in a sanitarium. Am I the asshole?
Is he a therapist having sex with his patient, or a patient having sex with a therapist and lovesick? I forget.
I don't know.
But either way, you're the asshole.
So,
guys,
this
movie emotionally is all over the place, I would say. And in terms of like the sympathy it wants us to have for the characters, it's asking a lot. But let's get into the plot to explain why that is true.
First, and this is going to be more detail-oriented than I get for most of it, it starts with that old Universal Pictures logo where it's like a planet behind a miasma of toxic gas, and that just brought me back to my childhood right away. So I really appreciated that. Dudley Moore, like we said, he's Patrick Dalton. He's a foreign-born but American-raised, or he's only been in America for like 10 years, I guess. An English-British man who is now a citizen who's running for Congress. He is a California state legislator, and the worst thing that he keeps complaining about is that he has to commute between Sacramento and Los Angeles. And it's like, yeah, I hear you. What, you're living a bad time, man. That sucks. That you got to take that 40-minute flight or whatever it is. Anyway, he's known for his humor and his pranks. And he gets to this, he's running late to get to a fancy fundraiser because an interview went long, which is bad planning on the part of his campaign manager. Like he should have people who help him with that. But his campaign manager is already at the party. He's running late, and he runs into a teen on the road. Now, by that, I made it sound like he hit the teen with his car. That's not what happens. He stops and asks this teenage girl, or adolescent girl, I guess, for directions.
She's about 13. I looked up the actor, and I would say that one of the major problems with this movie is it does not treat it as weird that this middle-aged man immediately befriends a 13-year-old girl in a kind of a beautiful girls style flirty way, I would say.
Well, it's because she's a very movie style, precocious, like super flirty 13-year-old, where she immediately asks if he's a pedophile. and if he's attracted to her, and he navigates that, I guess, as well as someone in that. Actually, he navigates it poorly, but not as poorly as it could be.
He navigates it poorly. Like the movie does not there's a bar the movie has to reach to make this relationship not seem a little creepy, and it does not clear it. I would say
it repeatedly.
You
fails
have to
clear
remember,
that bar.
audiences at this time had just gotten out of watching Foxes and Pretty Baby, so pretty much like for some reason, prepubescent girls were just like open season in Hollywood at that point.
Yeah, as opposed to the other periods in Hollywood when it was hands off. We have to guard these
Super
girls'
respectful,
purity.
yes.
You hear that, Charles Chaplin? Anyway, so so she's also, we know that she's
Can't
quirky
believe
because she's
Elliot's naming names, guys. Watch out.
yeah, watch out. I don't care whose toes I step on. I got to think of somebody else. Who's
whose graves I step on.
So she's collecting dead birds. She cuts their head and feet off to make what she refers to as a fetish, kind of a voodoo item, but she doesn't say why. And this is one of those things where it's like, again, just it's a quirky
Paimon or whatever.
It's like a Garden State type thing. Just a quirk. Her name is Nikki, and she says, go up there to the house, and he invites her as his guest. And she shows the party and keeps from getting kicked out. And this is a plot line I wish they'd carried through, which is the owner of this house is this rich, middle-aged, bald man who hates this little girl. And they have a real antagonistic relationship. And it's kind of dropped halfway through. And I wanted to know why do they're so openly sniping at each other, and that was the most interesting relationship in the film to me. So I want to see a movie about a rich old man and a rich adolescent girl who hate each other and are just like just feuding all the time. I think that'd be really.
That's a War with Grandpa sequel. I want to see.
Yeah, the same way that like I walked out of The Irishman being like, I want to see a movie where Joe Pesci and another old man and Al Pacino are arguing over the affection of their friends, like trying to be the best uncle to this little kid, because that was the part of the movie I liked the most. Okay, Nikki's mom is Charlotte Dreyfus, played by Mary Tyler Moore, with the hair that. I guess I describe it as in the old Ninja Turtles comics, April O'Neil gets a weird perm and everyone talks about how much they love it. And that's the haircut that Mary Tyler Moore has in this. In this movie.
I hate to linger too much on actors' appearances in movies. It seems untoward, but like it does represent some of the worst of 1980s like rich lady fashion, the way that they style her in this movie.
It's that moment early in a decade when you're still sort of dealing with the last refuge of the previous decade. Mm-hmm. So this is like the worst of like 1978 still kind of subsiding away.
Yeah, not since Gary Oldman as butt hair Dracula in Bram Stoker's Dracula have I been so distracted by a haircut in a movie. Where it's like, and she has it the whole movie in every scene. I'd just be like, I'm sorry. I can't take you seriously with that.
And
it's
you're
like
when,
when
and she works for like a cosmetics company, right? You would think Images.
Well,
yes,
like
she owns
CEO.
a
cosmetics company that operates out of her house /factory /cultural community arts center.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It's like in American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson or whatever, when Marsha Clark gets her new hair and everyone is like, "What did you do?" Except nobody in the movie thinks there's a problem with it. It's just anyway. So she is a cosmetics magnate who hates politicians. They're always asking her for money, and she thinks that Dudley Moore is just another one, and that he's using her daughter to get to her money, and she does not like it. And this is when we see that Dudley Moore has only the barest hint of an ideology or a personality, to be honest. He's just kind of like a guy who's used to, he seems like he's the guy who's like, if I'm in any situation where I have to like do anything, I'll just sit down at a piano and play a Billy Joel song and everyone will sing along and then I can leave and I don't have to like actually exert myself to connect with other human beings.
Based on this young girl, he seems to inspire this Bernie-like devotion in the youth.
Yeah.
Like these like whatever his policies are, she immediately wants to sign on and volunteer.
Yeah.
Does no one talk to this girl? She seems very excited about the fact she's getting any attention. You're right. The scene with Mary Tyler Moore reveals his one scruple.
What is his one scruple? That I guess that he doesn't want to be a babysitter later on, or
well, that and that just the idea that he has no idea who she is, and he resents the implication that he would dare befriend this girl just to get to mom's bank account.
Yeah, he's got his pride. You know, he's got his honor. Even though, as we'll see, he's a man who will cast aside his family without much thought. Who are his family? We'll meet him. He has a wife, and he has a son who has a broken leg, like a high school age son, and she doesn't like that politics keeps
right off the bat. We see his family not as good as his other possible family, right?
No, not as good. His son
also ran.
His son is a real void, just like a nothing. And his wife, she just is always nagging him about how he's never at home ever because of politics.
Always nagging him about how he apparently, as we learn later, had another affair earlier, and now seems deeply ambivalent about his family.
Yeah.
It's I would say the only relationship with less chemistry in the movie than Dudley Moore and Mary Tyler Moore is Dudley Moore and the wife character, where they're in bed together and they're talking about stuff, and he's like being a little flirty, and I was like, have they met? Like, was this like, did the son introduce them that day, and this is their first night together, and they're just feeling out how they are as a couple, you know?
And whoever styled her, I'm sure probably the genius behind Mary Tyler Moore's perm, is not doing her any favors. Like, she looks like she went to the beauty parlor with a picture of the mom from Footloose and said, "Make me look like this."
Yeah, they're really setting her up as like the dowdy nag back home that you want him to get away from, which was not fair, I'll say. So Charlotte Dreyfus, she calls him to her, or Dreyfus, as they always say, because I guess they don't want people to think she's Jewish. I don't know. Calls him to her office / factory, which also has an arts warehouse, and Nikki has a ballet class studio there. Yeah. And she wants to contribute money to him because Nikki believes in him so much. But she wants Nikki to be a part of the campaign. And he's like, what? I'm not going to like just babysit your daughter to support my political campaign. I'm a serious candidate with no stances on any issues.
But this is one of the few scenes in the movie where I like Dudley Moore, because he responds to this objectively strange offer of, I will give you a bunch of money if you like take my daughter around and give her a slot on your campaign staff, with, no, lady. Like, this is like the one time in the movie where I'm like, okay, this is like a reasonable way for a human to act. Like, he's like, this is weird, and it is weird, to be fair.
I do wish it had been more of a cop and a half type thing, where she's like, you can have the money, but Nikki's your campaign manager now. And now he's doing like a kid's idea of a political campaign. But it works. People love it. They find it so refreshing, you know? Where the other guy's hurling mud in attack ads, this guy's hurling candy from a clown car.
Water balloons.
That was the original draft of the script, and then they turned it into crazy people. They're like, we like what if a kid is good at politics, but what if a crazy person is good at advertising?
Yeah.
And what if an advertising man is good at lion taming? But what if a lion tamer is good at ocean exploration? What if that ocean explorer is the best stripper in the world? Like, there's any number of ways you could take it. So she gets upset, and she's like, Nikki wants to accomplish something in her life. And he's like, she'll accomplish something when she grows up. And she goes, she's not going to grow up. I've said too much, and runs off crying. That night, Patrick goes back to see Charlotte, kind of just walks into their house, which is weird.
Well, he knows the secret entrance now.
I guess that's true, but they're rich people who live in a warehouse in an industrial district, and I guess the doors are not locked. But Nikki is practicing ballet like a regular Kitty Pryde, and they have a heart-to-heart where by admitting that he once cheated on his wife, a story he says he didn't tell anyone before, he gets her to admit that she has leukemia, and she's tired of having everything in her life handed to her, and wants to work for something before she dies. Now, when spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, she has her dream come true literally handed to her, and she doesn't seem to have a problem with it. But Stuart, what were you going to say? Take down this dying girl. Take her down.
I never would have realized that when she asks him, so like, you know, she's a precocious kid, and she asks him like straight to his face if he's ever had an affair. And at first I'm like, is she like testing to see if he'd be a good candidate? But no, she's testing the water to see if he'll abandon his family to join her family at that point, right?
Yeah, she's grooming him. They call that grooming in the kids that are being predators on married middle-aged men community. Yeah.
Well, she is taller than he is.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, she is also she has the most emotional control of anyone in the movie. The character, I mean, where it's just like the adults do a lot of like crying and not being sure what to do, and she's a kid in a movie, so she's super confident and like kind of is always in charge.
Mm-hmm. A real Curly Sue.
I would like to say at this point, like, so other than the potentially worrisome nature of this relationship, which is a huge hurdle again that I do not think the movie like quite. It sort of like jumps on it and like stumbles over the hurdle, but other than that,
ouch, my jewels.
Why were you carrying them in your pocket when you were jumping over those hurdles?
It's a good question.
For the first like 20 minutes to half an hour of the movie, I'm like, okay, like, I don't like this one element, but I could see how this movie could work, and if later on we want to do our script doctoring, I might be up for that. But like,
Yeah, in our classic
like-
segment, Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of rewriting you.
yeah, but but
The script flopped her.
but this part of the movie could be interesting. This like young girl who's like idealistic but is dying, and this politician and a friendship they strike, like that could be an interesting part of the movie. And like for the first part of the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not loving this, but we watch a lot of genre movies. It's nice to see a human-sized drama. And this is the point of the movie where the movie stops being interesting at all to me, like, because it veers into a long romance between Dudley Moore and Mary Tyler Moore. And as referenced before, they have less than no charisma together
Yeah.
or chemistry. And it is like, it becomes a very boring slog peppered with like me yelling at the screen about the way characters are acting.
I mean, I would say there's three major flaws with the story of this movie. One, it's not a very interesting story. And I say that as someone who has found that I have a real appetite for older weepy melodramas, like 40s weepy melodramas, like that get really over the top.
Yeah.
But this one it's neither over the top enough nor is it believable enough. Two, Nikki is not a real person at any point. She's like a movie perfect kid who she never gets upset. She never throws a tantrum. Like, I have two great kids and they're constantly pissing the shit out of me.
and
Like
spoiler alert,
they're always getting me mad.
When she
Yeah.
when her illness finally overtakes her, at no point up till then does she ever really seem sick, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless I
Well,
was
that's because she's got
We'll get
Okay.
there.
yeah, I mean, not only does she never seem sick, she dances in a ballet. But anyway, and three, the two romantic leads, they don't have a sense of the romance doesn't feel palpable between those performances, but also like it feels like the movie is giving you so many reasons to not want them to be together. Like there's so many
Yes.
good reasons they should not be in a relationship.
There is no reason, like, I do not know why they fall in love with each other other than they are bonding over this dying
pure
child.
animal magnetism.
Yeah. And also this sort of, like, vague sense that, like, Dudley Moore wants out of his marriage, which is not, like, look,
Sympathetic.
life is long, and we all have
Not for Nikki,
things that
Dan.
happen in our
That's
lives.
true, Elliot.
Like, I'm not gonna... Like, people have complicated lives. I'm not gonna, like, necessarily pass judgment from afar on people, but as a movie protagonist, I'm not like, yeah, leave your family for these guys.
I think
Well, and there's the idea of like, okay, this girl she's an adolescent girl and she knows she's dying, so of course she's going to be sort of intellectually sexually precocious. She's going to want to talk about this stuff because she's not going to get older. It's not a thing where she can wait until it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Of course she's going to ask questions and blurt out inappropriate things and all that stuff. Fine, whatever. But in the context of a movie in which there is already this weird, creepy relationship between her and Dudley Moore,
Yeah.
and just that era of movies that was tending to sexualize girls at far too early an age anyway, none of that plays. And so I think that's a thing you could cherry pick out of this movie
Yes.
and put into a smarter film, but in this context it's just gross.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At any
it's- it's
point, I
very
expected
gross.
Travis Bickle to show up and blast Dudley Moore and get that little girl out of there.
I mean,
I'm here to save you, kid.
I do want to say about the actor, the young girl, like the character is completely unworkable, but I will give her credit. She does a good job trying to make it work, especially because this is her only acting credit. She was an ice dancer and a very acclaimed ballerina, but this is her one acting role.
Yeah, so if her
Yeah.
grandkids put this podcast on for her so she can listen to it, she won't feel
Look,
bad.
I mean, she's not that
wanna
old. She's
give
like,
the
she,
movie-
this was it. She was 13 in 1982. So she's not. I don't think she has grandchildren.
This isn't a
I
fucking
wanna-
math
I wanna-
podcast, Elliot.
I want to give the movie the credit I can. You know me, like I always want to say the thing that look, it is a
Yeah, I'll
terribly
go along.
written
I'll go along
character
with.
that does not
I'll
make
go along
any
with
sense,
the premise
but-
that you always want to say nice things about movies. I'll buy into that premise for this episode.
No, I'm just look, this is a terrible character, but I've seen much more experienced child actors do much worse jobs with better material.
Oh no, I think if anyone is trying and somewhat succeeding to make their character work a little bit, it is her, and her name is Catherine Healy. But
She can hold her head high.
She can hold she can hold her head higher than Dudley Moore, certainly, because he's very short.
Well, he's dead, Elliot. He has passed away.
You're right. When he died, he got 6 feet tall. You're right. So the joke's inaccurate.
No, I'm
so
saying
she can hold her head.
He can't lift his head anymore.
So
you're saying she can lift her head even higher than him
after you die. That's what they say.
That's why coffins are expandable. That's why they have those accordion sides on coffins.
Yeah.
That's why they had to dig up Lincoln's body at one point, and he had grown to 17 feet tall. So anyway, long story short, through things like going to carnivals together and avoiding Patrick's family, Charlotte starts falling in love with Patrick. Patrick doesn't want to hurt his family, but he's been disappearing for days, if not weeks, and so he has been hurting his family. His wife assumes that he loves Charlotte, and he's like, I don't know. And Dudley Moore's wife asks him, are you in love with Charlotte? And he's like, and she says, don't come home until you're done with
pick
this.
Pick a lane, mofo.
Well,
she very reasonably says, you can't have two families.
Yeah, he says, I am not involved with Charlotte, which very much is not the question that she asked him.
No, it also implies that he's involved with Nikki, which is worse. Which is terrible. So Nikki loves this situation. She loves that she finally has a dad and her mom is finally falling in love and advises them to have sex with each other and is like, it's so gross. It's so sitcom kid gross where she's like, tonight I'm going to sleep with my headphones on.
Are you going to make love to each other?
She says, are you going to make love to each other? Tonight I'm sleeping with my headphones on so I wouldn't hear anything. And they both say,
I left a few tasteful toys in your bedroom.
Here are my Barry White albums.
He goes, I think you'll find this little blue pill can help you past any qualms you might have, Patrick. But they have a conversation that is so. It felt like the kind of thing that I see usually in like an Alan Alda project, where it's two middle-aged, kind of upper middle class, rich white people saying like, "I have such feelings for you. I think you should go because if you stayed tonight, I'd just never be able to let you go." Uh-huh. Yes, that would be the mature decision to make because I'm so torn by lust for you and love for you. We do love each other, and that's why I have to leave right now. And I was like, they are so like,
let's shake hands.
Yes, like, and they let's shake hands and say goodnight. And it was like this very like, I don't know what love feels like anymore, or lust for that matter. But I assume that's it now. So I think I'll leave now. Like it felt like two robots that have been programmed to tell each other they love each other.
There could be like a complex movie made about this, but this movie does not pick a lane, as Alonso said before. Like, either you don't give Dudley Moore a family, which is what I would advocate for, or you make it much clearer that, like, you know, like everyone's tortured over this. Maybe he realizes that he's kind of a dick. Like,
yeah.
But
who is Nikki's dad? Like, is he dead? Or were they divorced? Is it a virgin birth? Like, we're never told anything.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is a gaping. There must be something that they cut out, maybe, because it is a gaping void that we never find out what the deal is with that. Because it's a very different situation if her parents are divorced, if her father died. Did she ever know her dad? Did her mother have a child out of like not married? Like those are all different situations that a child would react to differently. But it kind of doesn't matter.
Like a short, fast-talking Englishman, because that would explain her connection with him. Right?
Oh yeah, her dad was Bob Hoskins. That's the thing.
I mean, Bob Hoskins would be incredible.
Anthony Newley.
Yeah. I think there's a feeling, that God created this family out of whole cloth for Dudley Moore's character to escape from his family, which is
ultimate temptation.
Fine. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they have this kind of like a simulacrum kind of Jordan Wolfson animatronic character conversation about love. And the Dreyfuses throw a big fundraiser at their factory community center house, and Patrick's wife and son show up. Oh, shit. Yeah. Things are going to go down, except they don't. It's super awkward. But then, as I mentioned earlier, Dudley Moore's son goes up and goes, "Dad, don't think I don't understand. And it's this weird moment where it's like, so is it that your son also wants to have sex with Mary Tyler Moore, and that's why he like gets it? Like,
Well, he watched the Dick Van Dyke Show on Nick at Night when he was young.
I
And he
guess,
saw
but
those
it's this
capri
weird.
pants, and no, it is.
Look,
it is,
that dying girl is so precocious. I totally understand why she needs your attention more than I do.
More than I do. Look, Dad, I'm going to college soon. I want to cut ties with this family too. Like, let's just make a pact. You and me, this family doesn't exist anymore. If shake on it.
Well,
This never happens.
and also
yeah,
Mary
you,
Tyler
me,
Moore,
Mom, this never happened.
Mary Tyler Moore like sort of pulls the wife away, and they have like a conversation off screen. It could be an interesting scene, but they don't show it. Where like I assume what happens is Mary Tyler Moore is reassuring the wife that nothing has happened, even though there is this emotional affair going on. And this scene is very strange because it is the closest the movie comes to acknowledging that like this is a really shitty thing that Dudley Moore is doing right now. But the rest of the movie, and particularly the ending, seem to make us like want to make us think like no, like you should be with Mary Tyler Moore.
We get it too.
And we never see his family again after this scene, right? Like, they're just not in the movie anymore, I think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But there's
Like, if so, they might like be on the other side of a phone or something.
Yeah. So Charlotte tells Patrick during a very subdued grown-up phone call, again, this is kind of like Alan Alda emotions, that now that she's met his family and they have faces, they can't do this anymore. And she and Nikki are going to fly to New York and maybe go, who knows, travel all over the world together. And Patrick is like,
Yeah, like it's
Well,
a
you know-
bucket list situation.
yeah, I mean, literally, it is a bucket list situation.
Yeah.
And Patrick is like, no, and he chases after them and catches them at the airport. And it is like, and they're all like, yay, we're together again. And there's a segment, there's a brief moment where Dudley Moore's having trouble with the metal detector at the airport. He just can't seem to get all this metal out of his pockets. And I was like, I can't figure out if this is supposed to be funny or if I'm supposed to be like, no, he's not going to be able to catch up with them. Or if I'm going to be like, good, stay there. Don't like get stuck.
Yeah.
I don't want you
mean,
to be these people.
And this is before the current like TSA. Like he should be like waltzing
Wait a minute,
through that checkpoint.
This checkpoint didn't happen after 9/11, Dan?
I'm just saying, like to have like this ostensibly funny set piece about like a guy who I assume as a senator travels all the time, being like, what?
He's a
I have to
he's a
take the
state senator, yeah.
change out of my pocket? I mean, although I do
You just
see
feel like
people
just
like
waltz
that.
up to the gate.
Yeah, these days still flying.
those days it was like, let me check your gun, sir. It has bullets in it. Good. That's the way to the gate. Just go up there.
Oh, would you like me to light your cigarette?
Is your flamethrower fully charged? Okay, good. You're cleared.
Now this is the
true
line for people
story.
who want to take the plane to Cuba. Do you want to get in that line?
True story. My family went to Spain in 1978 to celebrate my parents' silver wedding anniversary because that's where they were both born. My grandmother had in her house an unexploded, defused Spanish Civil War bomb.
Oh, wow.
We took it apart, put the pieces in different pieces of luggage, and brought it home, and I still have it as a doorstep.
Wow.
That's pretty fantastic. That's pretty great.
And yet Dudley Moore's change is somehow making it impossible for him to
Yeah.
get to the LAX,
Yeah.
New York game.
Back then, every now and then they'd stop you and they'd say, actually, can you check that bag? Someone wants to bring a bomb on in the overhead compartment. We'd really appreciate it if you could make
Yeah.
space for it. Like it was, but yeah, he can't get through there, but he catches them on an escalator. I will say, I was like, oh, LAX really has not changed very much in the past 40 years because I recognize the tunnel that he was running through. But he catches them. They all fly to. Also, when did he buy a ticket? Did he buy the ticket on the plane? Like, come on, what's going on around here?
The conductor comes down the aisle.
Yeah. Oh, where are you going to? New York. It's a $5 surcharge you bought on the plane. Click, chick, punching out the holes on it.
That was the earlier era of plane travel. Yeah, the guy walking down, punching out holes.
I mean, there were times, I don't think you could ever do it on cross-country flights, but there was a period in the 70s where there were commuter flights where if they had empty seats, they would sell them to you on the plane. Like you could just walk up to
great.
get on the plane. They'd be like, and find an empty seat, and then you could buy it on the plane. Okay, so they're in New York, and they have a magical Christmas time weekend. What better place to be in to be in on Christmas than New York, because it's got all the things that Christmas is all about. Snow that is covered in dog feces, homeless people dying under newspaper blankets. What other great things are in New York in Christmas? I haven't been there in a while, guys. What do you remember?
The
What are you
Rockefeller
seeing
Christmas
these days?
tree, Elliot.
Oh, yeah. You got
Yeah.
Christmas trees infested with owls, all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
Do they go skating? I assume I looked away
They
from
do
the
go.
TV and
They go
went
ice.
skating.
They do all
She
the things.
goes skating and they watch.
All
She goes ice skating
all
and
the
they watch.
pizza stands sell holiday-themed reindeer-flavored pizza sausage meat.
Do they?
Reindeer flavored pizza sausage meat.
Well, the thing
they
is, they
sell them
grind up the
tubes.
pizza.
What?
They grind up the
Not
pizza.
reindeer sausage, reindeer
Yeah,
flavor.
They grind up the pizza and they stuff it into the sausage casing and they sprinkle a little artificial reindeer flavoring. It's not natural,
Yeah.
but it tastes like bears say it tastes just like real reindeer.
Yeah.
And but
The blind taste.
the weird thing then is
I
that
mean,
they
that was
tied
a problem. That's a bad business plan where your pizza is mostly marketed towards bears that wander into New York.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we used to. Back in the olden days, when more
Christmas
bears
time.
wandered in, and that's Christmas time. All the bears come in just for the be holiday tourists. The other thing that's weird
Yeah.
is they take the sausages and tie them into a pretzel shape, so it's also a pretzel. Now, one thing that I wonder if I should talk about how much I've come to dislike Christmas as I get older, or should we save that
I
towards
mean,
the end?
sure. Alonso's here. Why not?
Yeah,
Just say it to my face,
Yeah.
Elliot.
Alonso, I didn't want
Alonso
to have to
is
tell you
sitting in
this
front of
this
like
way.
a massive Christmas tree. There's a huge display. There's a nativity scene. It looks like it's handmade. Did you make that yourself?
Out of butter, yes.
I mean, I will say Alonso's real Christmas tree, and there's no way to say this. I was like, I don't want to insult Alonso, and then I'm like, there's no way of saying this. It looks a little like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. There are
Well,
large gaps in it, I would say.
it is a silver tip fir, which is a very intentional choice, and they're harder to come by because it's the kind of thing you see in like 40s movies all the time. But now, if you want
yes.
one, you have to really look for it. They really show off the ornaments well. So I know people's go-to for this kind of thing is Charlie Brown, but I'll tell you, come back at night, you'll see it all lit up. You'll get it.
All right, I will come back to this Skype call at night.
Now the problem is Dan's a vampire, so now Alonso, he can just walk into your house whenever. Now that you've invited him.
Oh no,
once.
I've invited him.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. I used to be agnostic on Christmas, by which I mean I was like, whatever, someone else's holiday. But now that I have children and they are bombarded by Christmas stuff at school, I'm like, we got to stop. This has got to end now. And I'm finding myself becoming.
This?
Yeah. And so
Do
anyway.
you think you're going to
I
stop
must
Christmas?
stop it from coming.
So anyway, I've enlisted in the war on Christmas, and I'm now going to be just burning down Christmas trees. But now I'm getting much more militant about him understanding what Hanukkah is all about than I would have been otherwise. I'm like, we're going to talk about some Maccabees, Sammy. Like, it's time to tell a Maccabee story. And he's like, can I open my present now? And I'm like, Antiochus wouldn't let you open that present. Let's talk about it, Sammy.
I apologize, by the way, as a Gentile, that Christmas has forced you to elevate a minor holiday in the Jewish calendar to
wow.
TL,
That's really
Dan,
nice
too
of
little,
you.
too late. I mean, I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking on the shoulders of 2,000 years of
Exactly.
anti-Semitism,
Oppression.
but it's too little, too late. And just when the shoe's on the other foot in a couple hundred years, and when Judaism's the world religion, just get ready to be bored of Passover.
Look, I guess if by apologizing I have now become the subject of all ire, like that's a sacrifice that I got to take. I got to take it.
Yeah.
Hey, I watched Love Lights Hanukkah on the Hallmark Channel last night, so I like to think I'm doing my part to bridge the
Oh,
I
wow.
appreciate that. You know what, Alonso? You're one of the good guys. I appreciate that. Yeah. Now,
Alonso Duralde, good for the Jews.
look.
the goal of my life.
If you need that blurb attributed to me, I'll take it. Good for the
We'll
Jews.
sign off.
Yeah.
I like it.
So anyway, but Christmas in New York, yeah, it is a magical time. Anyway, they do they ice skating. They go see the Nutcracker, which did bring back memories to me because my family every year did go see the Nutcracker when I was young, which was fantastic. They step in wet cement and ruin a construction project, and I'm just hoping it's Trump related, in which case, great, keep ruining it.
Ruin away.
And Nikki reads them her list. They're sitting in what is it? in Sherman Square. Is that it? It's like right by the big statue of General Sherman at the corner of the park. And they say she's reading this list of things she's never done or had, and mentions I've never had sex. And I was like, movie. This cannot turn into Dudley Moore being a hero by having sex with Nikki. This cannot turn into that. That is not
Here's
okay.
the thing, like, if this was a smarter movie.
Yeah,
if
if you're gonna put that in, you got to do the work movie.
No.
If this is about a 13-year-old
Emotional
girl
work.
who is dealing heavily with her, basically her death sentence, rather than this like weird backdoor like tragedy romance, like if it's really about this girl dealing with things, like I would understand this as a conversation she has with her therapist. Like she's of an age where she's like beginning to have these regrets. Like this is a thing I will not experience in my life. Adults get to experience, I won't. But like saying it as part of her list to her mom and her, like the guy she's trying to like manipulate into being her dad, is weird.
Yeah. Or that I was working.
I've never seen an X-rated movie was also on that list.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And it's like I wonder. There is. I mean, I guess there is a. If they were making this movie in like the late '60s, early '70s, I could see a version of it where they're like, "Well, let's do all those things," and they're like taking her to a porno
We're
theater.
off to Times Square.
And they're just hiring a hustler to sleep with her for one night or something. Like,
All right,
Yeah.
let's not go far down this road.
Can we watch Midnight Cowboy?
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
count?
yeah, I mean, technically
Yeah.
X-rated, but it's one of those. I could see it being one of those like those comedies that were very outre in the late '60s, and then you watch them now, and you're like, this is not aged well. I understand that you were rebelling against something, but this is not something.
Most French comedies of the 1970s.
Certain things you wanted to rebel against should not have been rebelled against.
Yeah. But she instead they just have her drive a horse carriage around Central Park. So I was like, okay,
Just as
fine,
good.
movie. You know what? that's basically like making love. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Potato.
The feel of being in control
Stuart,
of a
as
big dumb
someone who's
animal.
had-
Sure.
Stuart, as someone who's had sex like 2-3 times,
Yep.
like that it's
Yeah.
just as good as getting in a horse-drawn carriage.
And guys,
But have you driven a horse?
yeah, of course I did. That was when I was on my way to that X-rated movie I watched.
Which one was it, Stuart?
The one.
Which one? Well, it was a short video. I saw it on somebody's computer. It was about, I don't know, like 15 seconds long.
Wow.
And
It was Myra Breckenridge.
it had some very interesting sound design. Let me say that.
I'm so confused about what the reality of this bit is. Like what? So that night, at Nikki's instigation, they have a little sort of play wedding with her dead bird voodoo fetish, which she brought with
God.
her. It's not rotted by this point as the priest, and Nikki conducts the ceremony where she has them proclaim vows of eternal memory of the love of this moment, and they're a family now. And it is it is such a midsummer type scene where I'm like, but they think it is touching and beautiful. It was
This is so upsetting that this young girl, is like forcing, again, these two adults, one of whom has a family, into this mock wedding. It feels like the Twilight Zone episode, It's a Good Life, where it's like, it's good that you're making us marry each other.
It's good you're making me abandon my wife and child. Yes, it's good you're making me sleep with your mom. Yes, Nikki, these are all good things. It's this weird someone who like it feels like someone who lives in a movie made it. Like someone who's not fully aware of human emotions, but like lives in movies and it's like, isn't this adorable? And it's like there's so much and what has gone wrong in this girl's relationship with her mother that she's like, this is an okay way to do things. Like we've kidnapped this man,
And isn't this scene like mentioned on the poster? Like the poster's like, the girl's dying, the groom is already married, and the bride is in her sweatpants or something. I'm obviously
I saw a different poster.
Yeah, it's on the poster.
I mean, if not, I love that.
Or it's maybe it's
one
like
thing
the tagline listed on IMDb after you have to search for it 3 times because it keeps telling you not found.
One of the things
I swear, I've never heard of this movie.
one of the things I did read about it was that the promotional release for the movie made a big deal about how Mary Tyler Moore and Dudley Moore have the same last name, which
Great.
is, if that's what you're selling the movie on, you do not have much. You do not have much to go on.
I'm so glad they pointed that out because I would have missed it.
Yeah, it would be
otherwise.
like if the Avengers press material was like, there are so many Chris's in this fucking movie.
Actually, that should be the Avengers re-release around Christmas time, and they go, Merry Christmas, and they just show all the Chris's.
Paul Newman and Gary Oldman in the same movie.
Yeah.
If they touch, will they explode?
That is what happened. But anyway, because the
Will
movie,
become man.
the movie was called The Incredible Exploding Man. So they have that ceremony. They're a family now in the eyes of whatever demon is living inside the dead bird fetish that Nikki has created. And which is driving them to their doom. The next day, Patrick arranges, or rather demands, a ballet audition for Nikki. Who is running these auditions? Is it the hotel manager from Ghostbusters? I believe it is. And she really impresses them with her audition. And they're like, you know what? We've got to use her today. Because I know this is an all-kids production of The Nutcracker, and it will destroy our young star. That she is being replaced by a new person we've only known for a day, but we are doing this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't just stick her in the she's like the lead all of a sudden. And I like looked away from the movie for like a minute, and then I came back and I'm like, what is going on? Like, how is it possible that in one day she auditioned and now they were putting her in opening night of the Nutcracker at Lincoln Center, and then I'm just like, you know what, movie? No explanation you're going to give me. It's going to make me swallow this.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
whatever.
it's like the dress rehearsal, I
Yeah.
think. Like, that's their excuse for this thing.
Yeah.
And she sort of comes in midway through, but she gets, like, the meatiest part of the dance.
Oh, yeah, she's Clara. Yeah.
I think there's an unspoken
know,
conversation about how Dreyfus Cosmetics is underwriting their next
Yeah.
season.
There's also a great scene where all the young ballerinas are applying their own makeup for this production, and they're all kids, and it's like, they wouldn't all be able to do the same fucking thing. Like,
I mean, they're
I don't
all
have
pros.
kids, but I'm
the
assuming.
master of stagecraft.
Yeah.
I like that was the thing you really bumped on in the scene. You're like, where's this? Where's the makeup person? So yeah, she gets to be Clara for a little bit in it. To be fair, okay, the movie makes it seem as if this is the New York Ballet Balanchine production of the Nutcracker that they do every year. This is like some kind of kids theater, different choreography production. So the movie pulls a little sleight of hand there. And meanwhile, she's rehearsing all day. This sick girl who's dying of leukemia, they are pushing her to the brink with this ballet rehearsal. Patrick and Charlotte go out and buy a Christmas tree and carry it by hand into a hotel. If I walked into a hotel with a Christmas tree in my hands, I bet the hotel would have some questions. But I guess things were looser back then. It is an extremely poorly attended Nutcracker performance, but I guess it is the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
But I was just amazed. I was like, they couldn't fill these seats a little more. This is a big Hollywood movie. There's nobody there. But she dances in the Nutcracker, and this section feels like it happens for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
There is a lot of Nutcracker dancing in this.
You say that as someone who has gone to the ballet and enjoyed it.
Someone who loves ballet, especially loves the Nutcracker, loves the music. And it's like, I was like, oh, they're putting her in right after they kill the Rat King. Oh, this is the part where, she and the Nutcracker takes off his mask and he's a prince now. But I'm seeing afterwards that it's a professional ballerina that they have playing the part. I was like, okay, I get it now. But it is a long time where you're just watching Dudley Moore and Mary Tyler Moore watching a children's production of the Nutcracker, and I kept looking at how much time was left in the movie and being like, they're really running out the clock with this Nutcracker performance.
Yeah.
like there can't be too much going on after this. They throw flowers at the stage. Everyone applauds. Her final dream, as it turns out, is to take the subway home. This also took me back because it is 1980s graffiti covered, disgusting subway train. It's so wow. It was what it was like when I was a kid. But she has some kind of illness spell, movie sickness spell, and she's in pain. And Patrick and Charlotte argue for a while over whether they should stop the train or not, and it's like, we gotta stop the train, my baby! And Dudley Moore's like, oh, but we'll just go to the next stop. That would be quicker than if you... And it was so funny that they're having the same conversation that I would have with my wife if our train was just stopped in a tunnel, where it's like, do we get off at the next stop, or do we just, should we take a cab from here? And all the New Yorkers try to help, but they mainly just bustle around and there's nothing they can do. Nikki passes out.
I will say about this scene, it would be very hard to make a scene where a child dies on a subway and not be moved. But so maybe it's a low bar. But it was a distressing scene because you see all of these other people on the subway watch this drama play out, and I thought that was actually kind of a smart directorial choice, like the amount of time they spend on like the faces of other commuters who are like, holy shit, there's a child dying in front of me.
Whose commute is horrible.
I thought you were going to say it'd be hard to have a scene about the death of a child and not make it moving, and somehow they did it.
Somehow they managed.
Because, as Stuart pointed out earlier, she has not displayed a single symptom, a moment of discomfort, like nothing. This whole movie, she has been carrying on like everything's great. She has just exerted herself through this very exhausting ballet performance, and then suddenly it's on the subway where she literally just says, "It hurts," and then bam, drops dead. I'm like, oh, come on, movie. Like, I get that as a dancer you leave it on the floor, but like this is just to another level of ridiculous. And then they keep cutting to like other people watching, including this one boy who's like about 10 years old who just stares as though he has no interest in what's going on. And they cut back to him.
That's New York.
That's New York. I mean,
I kept waiting, like, is he going to break? Is he going to start, like, is he going to show emotion and be overwhelmed by this moment? Nope,
no,
never.
that was, ironically, that, like Dan saying, when they were cutting through these other people in the train, I liked that because it was one of the few times they broke the like hermetic seal on this relationship, where it was like, oh, they do exist in a world of other people. But that kid, Alonso, his total lack of response, I was like, yes, that's a real New Yorker response. Yeah, on the subway, is you're seeing that, and like, I don't know, whatever. And I guess
maybe
not my business.
It could be more of a critique than a compliment. The more I think about it, the fact that I'm more moved by the bystanders who we've never seen before in the movie than either of the characters who are supposed to love this. Yeah,
that's a pretty fair. That's a pretty strong critique, I would say. That's the movie not doing its job. When you're like, who's this kid? Who's this? Like, I did think that kid was more interesting than anything else going on in the movie. I was like, who's this little jerk who doesn't care that this girl is dying?
What's his
Who's this hardened badass?
So one other thing.
He grew up to be Stephen Miller.
Oh God.
Oh, they should have thrown him under the train. As a child, I would never advise doing that now to a human being. But so they run off the train. That's when we see it was an M train from Lincoln Center. Whatever. We don't have time to worry about that because it's the next because we're in an ambulance all of a sudden going across a bridge. We're going down. Well, it doesn't matter what street we're going to. Anyway, anytime I see New York in a movie, that I'm like, geography, I understand. I know this stuff. So the next morning, Nikki has died. We know because Patrick is reading to her mom Nikki's last testament and journal. And she talks about how she had a wonderful life, and she tells them not to be sad, donate all her things, and she would like her ballet shoes to be worn by a famous ballerina.
Yeah.
And she implies that I think the implication is her last wish is for Patrick and Charlotte to finally have sex. It was not totally clear, but it was like, you know what I want you to do. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
And she was like,
or just be together, which is like, wow, what a manipulative dead kid.
Yeah.
If you love me.
And she was like, donate my entire inheritance. And you're like, what? That's like, wait, do you want me to die now? Do I have to be buried in your fucking tomb, kid?
Yeah, Mary Tyler Moore is supposed to give away all of her money and then throw herself on the funeral pyre of Nikki's grave.
Like Ramses.
I would like you both to be buried in my pyramid with me, to take care of me and be my parents in the afterlife.
I would like Dudley Moore's organs in a jar.
Yeah, of course. And then
Very small jar.
Stuff his corpse with sawdust. So is this when we finally get to their heartfelt goodbye at the TWA terminal at JFK? Because I recognize those landmarks.
But first we get to see them. We get to see the whole process as they pick out and buy a magazine at the newsstand of that airport. Which it was only afterwards that I was like, that was a weird choice that we spent that much time watching them pay for this magazine.
Yeah.
Well, you see the Men in Black in the background. That was what that scene was.
Oh,
I see. Set up the later franchise.
That would be amazing if it's like, the whole thing was a backdoor pilot for this Men in Black group. They say goodbye. She says, I'm going to go to France for a while. I have a house there that we used to go to with my dad, because just to remind us that she's super rich and has essentially used this congressional candidate as her family plaything for a few weeks and kind of wrecked his life. Not that he wasn't
not
asking
really.
for.
I mean, doesn't he get everything he
wants? He's equally
wants?
guilty. I guess he does. They say they love each other. First they take a walk in Central Park, then they go to the airport. They buy that magazine. And then the last scene is we see the text of a telegram that Patrick is writing over footage of Nikki and Charlotte dancing together in the ballet studio. And he says, hey, to France, hey, I won the election. How you doing?
Yeah.
Am I still a thing with you? Like, that's basically...
Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, it's basically like... It's kind of like a booty telegram in a way,
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, I'm a congressman now. You up? What's going on?
Who's
You up?
Who's on the
Stop.
fucking politics beat who just didn't break this story about a congressional candidate?
That was the other thing. He wins the election after abandoning his family during the campaign.
Yeah.
We just saw a guy lose a Senate race because he was texting with some people.
Only in
like,
California, you know.
It was the 80s.
I guess, I mean, they did, at the time, we did have a president who was the president also of the Hellfire Club Inner Circle and was presiding over S&M orgies. Guys, I'm trying to start this rumor that Reagan was head of the Hellfire Club S&M orgies. You can help me.
Let's
Let's
get in
help
on the
me
ground
get it
floor
going.
on this one.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit. I mean,
it here
in
first.
40 years, it's just going to be established fact. But now I'm trying to get it started. Yeah, I guess it's weird that I think of the 80s as a much more like uptight time. But you're right. What you said, Alonso, earlier. It's like the remnants of the 70s are still floating through, and the 70s was the time when middle-aged people wanted their 60s, I guess, and were just like,
Well, also
just doing what they wanted
I mean,
and forgetting about the damage.
Yeah, well, that is definitely the like fucking wheelhouse this movie is in. This is the I don't know, like 70s soft rock male ballad of movies. But it also like, you know, there wasn't the media presence, I think, at the time to be like constantly on Scandal Watch. But it did seem strange watching it today, being like, someone's going to break the story, right? That's going to be a plot point.
Why isn't this on HuffPo right now?
And this was literally a very 70s kind of thing in that this is a script that knocked around for quite a while before getting made. Like, there's this insane array of people who were attached to it at some point and who were going to be in it. It was like, you know, Nick Nolte and Audrey Hepburn and like all the, like this just list of actors and actresses before they got to the magical combination of the Moores here.
Well, also
Moops.
Screenplay by Alan Moore.
That's why the characters
He took his name off of this too.
Yeah, well, the characters were originally Mr. Macabre and Little Nell. That's why it was an Alan Moore project. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the screenplay and speaking about how it bounced around for a while, thank you for giving me the opening to say that this is based on a novel, and the novel is written by someone named Fred Mustard Stewart. Fred Mustard Stewart.
Oh yeah,
And the screenplay's by David Seltzer, and Seltzer will take out mustard.
that was this was a joke that I considered making and then decided not to. Where I was going to be like, oh, they're halfway to a deli in this movie, mustard and seltzer.
Wow.
But it's a.
Wait. That's one that you wouldn't say?
Yeah.
It was. I felt like I am not yet an old enough Jew to tell that particular joke.
Yeah.
Give me.
And then the waiter brings you a Tony Bill.
That's the director's
man,
name.
Oh, the portions are so small. I do want Dudley Moore. So.
By the way, this is the same guy who directed Crazy People, so clearly he loved working with
Yeah.
Dudley Moore so
and
much. It was like,
they opened up a restaurant together. It turns out, Tony Bill and Dudley Moore. They were real friends. So it's the. But anyway, so Dan, you had. Do you want to talk about anything about the novel, or just that the guy's name had mustard in it?
Just the guy's name had mustard in it, that's all. Although I will say, like, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, like script doctor stuff, I think that there could be an interesting movie in the idea of like, okay, there's this idealistic girl who's dying.
Okay, pitch it to me. Really give us the enthusiasm.
Dudley Moore has no family. Let's
Gotta
correct that
cut
right
that
now.
out.
So you're saying Dudley Moore has less people in his life.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes, he is-
I love it.
He is alone in the world.
strings.
There is no romance between him and the mother. Maybe even like there's a mother and a father, both of whom are sort of like reasonably suspicious that this is a weird relationship, but you know, come to accept this man. But like, it is more about this young woman who is dying, who is idealistic and believes in this person, this politician who maybe like does hold these ideals on the outside and like and believes in them, but doesn't necessarily make human connection well, and does with this young girl. And it would still be kind of a cliche story, but I think it would eliminate a lot of the like emotional problems I had with it.
Okay,
So the dying girl's interested in politics and not so much in pimping out her mother.
Okay, interesting.
okay.
That's
fair.
my first fix, my screenplay fix.
I think that's a good. So, and you're saying that he's like he's a real policy wonk. So she knows from following the blogs. We're updating it. It's not set in the 80s anymore.
Yeah.
She knows from following the blogs that like he's got all the answers. He's this young progressive, or maybe is an older progressive. I don't know. Who's got, but he's not good at talking to people about it. And she gives him the human touch. Now, do you have a climax where they're at the election headquarters? It's election night. He has to race from the party to her bedside, and she dies just as he wins the election. So there's a big party There's a big party going on. There's confetti falling, but you know what? The light just went out of his life, and now
it was also crazy because election night happened to be the same night as the dress rehearsal for the Nutcracker, right?
Yeah, it's an off election that's happening on Christmas for some reason, and so it's feeling us so that the
Special
previous
election,
seat holder died under mysterious circumstances. Maybe the girl killed him, and that could be a thing, that she's like a Hannah type assassin, you know, and so. And she wanted to make an opening for this guy to run for office. So it's a special Christmas election. The Nutcracker thing is a fundraiser. She collapses during the show.
I love it.
In the middle of the climactic moment when the Nutcracker is about to hold her up in the lift from Dirty Dancing. That's when she collapses and they have to take her to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he runs out. It's a fundraiser on the last day, on election day, which is pretty late. That I guess he still has bills that he owes. You know?
Yeah.
So.
What if she's at the big party and he wins, the balloons fall, the confetti, he gets up to make a speech, he goes, I have to acknowledge I couldn't be here without Nikki, and he brings her up and she's been thoroughly healthy the entire film, and she gets up behind the microphone and suddenly her face turns deathly white. She says it hurts and collapses as all the cameras snap photographs, and he's standing there holding her lifeless.
Yeah, like a pieta.
Now, Alonso,
yeah.
Can I plus this idea? What if instead of just collapsing, her head explodes scanner style?
So she has some sort of disease that leads to exploding heads, and they're looking for a cure.
It's a Scanner's disease.
Okay, she has Scanner syndrome, and Scanner syndrome. It's
Cronenberg sarcoma,
and also it's a pandemic. That's the thing. He's running for office during this time where there's Scanner syndrome could hit at any time. Nobody knows, and they think they've beaten it, but in the end, Nikki proves that they haven't.
Yeah.
So you can expand the scope quite a bit. You got scenes of like riots in foreign countries because there's only so much vaccine for Scanner syndrome, and it's like World War Z or something like that. You know, so we can open this up because it's based on a stage play. We got to open it up from the stage play it's based on, which of course was called Scanner's Girl Election Day Christmas, and we. Maybe it's a segment from Forbidden Broadway. I don't know. Maybe that's it. So Dan, the
we should,
no. As I was saying, do you have any?
this.
No. Casting. Who are you casting in these parts?
Okay.
Who's the girl? Who's the progressive policy wonk? And who's the opponent? Who will do anything to take down the progressive, even blackmail, theft, and in an amazing sequence, taking the Super Bowl hostage. So who's the who do you play these parts?
Okay, here we go. Here we go. We got
Christmas Super Bowl.
The Christmas Super Bowl. Yeah, it's just, again, everything's thrown out of whack because of the special elections. They're holding the Super Bowl on Christmas as well.
Yeah.
The politician, of course, has to be Adam Driver. He's very hot right now. You know,
Sure.
he's good at playing intense, and I think the young girl, to avoid any possible like weirdness, should be Andy Serkis doing motion capture.
Okay, so you're not kind of an Alita Battle Angel type thing where there's a little bit of an uncanny valley about the girl. I would say if you want to avoid that problem even entirely, you cast Amy Adams as the girl, and she just has pigtails, and it's okay because she's an adult playing a little girl.
I mean, that's weird in a different way. Can we get to the ending?
And
here?
who plays the bad guy? Who plays the bad guy?
Yeah, who's the bad guy?
Dan Aykroyd. He's,
Wow.
You know, he's one of those
Okay.
comic villain.
That's a
performances.
big
Nothing
role,
but trouble.
Yeah, sure.
Let's get to the final judgments, because I don't know what's going on in Stewart's corner of Brooklyn. It looks like it's much later there than in my part of Brooklyn. The sun is going down. So let's Stuart looks so baffled right now. Is this a good, bad movie, bad movie, a movie you kind of like? I will start. Look, this movie, by the end of it, it put me in a bad mood. I was angry at the movie. I got out of it. I don't hold it against Alonso, but I walked out of it in a sour mood. I thought the people were bad. I didn't like it. It was boring.
You snapped the DVD that you had ordered from Amazon.
Yep. It's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out.
Okay.
I'll go next. Yeah, it is a bad movie. It's terrible. It's terrible. It was. I wish it there's a version of this movie that is a good bad movie, but this one is a little dull. But there was part of me that and I want to thank Alonso because there's part of me that was there is no chance in hell that I would ever have seen this movie, and it was like a little taste of the kind of movie that I imagine my parents going to go see when I was a kid, and then just being so disappointed and coming back and not telling me about it. And it really took me back to a year when movies like this could come out. And it's okay, there was a period when they made this stuff. So I appreciated it.
Yeah.
But not as a movie. It was terrible, but I appreciate it as a snapshot of a worse time. Stuart?
Yeah. No, this is a bad movie, and it's fun to get to watch, a bad movie from another era. And bad in ways that are it didn't feel bad in the boring modern kind of overproduced Hollywood way. It felt like a little bit of that, but also a little bit of the this is somebody's passion project. Even if it wasn't, it felt a little bit like somebody cares a lot about this dumb movie that doesn't make sense. Who is this movie for? Nobody knows. Bad.
I will. I'll close the loop. It is totally bad. My friend Joelle Ryan tipped me off to it years ago, and the line that she always quotes from it is one that Dave and I have turned into a running joke in our house, which is after she says the thing about, "Are you two going to make love?" Dudley Moore says, "You're an outrageous child, Nicole." I just love throwing that into conversations because it's a guaranteed laugh getter, much like this movie in general. But yeah, it is bad in the way of someone thought this was a good idea. Somebody really committed to the bit of this thing. It certainly doesn't feel like it was created by committee or the studio thought we're going to cash in on the I don't know what dying girl
We
craze.
gotta cash in on the abandoning your family
thing.
trend. Yeah. It's a. And knowing that the script was around for so long that people were trying for years to tell this story it's crazy because you're watching it and you're
it got developed a lot.
It's amazing. You're watching. It must have been a big. The book must have sold well. Probably.
Yeah, I figure this is but what if Love Story was about a kid instead of a lover? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, they're it's Love Story, but a lot of people's lives are ruined as collateral. by the leads. It's to go into the movie and be we're gonna make this movie. It's about a guy who becomes friends with it's about a grown man who becomes friends with a 13-year-old girl. Okay, but why does he do that? Well, he's falling in love with her mother. Oh, that's great. He's already married and he has a child. What are you doing? What is going on?
Okay.
I gotta read the book one of these days, just out of curiosity, but I haven't brought myself to that yet.
What's weird is it's a Western.
Yeah.
I listen to Bullseye because Jesse always has really good questions.
What did John Malkovich wear when he was 20?
I don't know how to describe it.
There's always that moment where Jesse asks a question that the person he's interviewing has not thought of before.
I don't think anyone's ever said that to me or acknowledged that to me, and that is so real.
Bullseye. Interviews with creators you love and creators you need to know. From MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Hi, I'm James, host of Minority Corner, which is a
podcast that's all about intersectionality. It's hosted by James with a guest host every week.
Discussing all sorts of wonderful issues, nerdy and political.
Pop culture.
Black, queer, feminism.
Race, sexuality.
News.
You're going to learn your history, their self-empowerment, and it's told by what feels like your best friend.
Why should someone listen to Minority Corner?
Why not?
Oh my God, free stuff.
There's not free stuff.
The listeners of Minority Corner will enjoy some necessary LOLs, but
but mainly a look at what's happening in our world through a colorful lens.
People will get the perspective of marginalized communities.
I feel heard, I feel seen.
Like you said, you need to understand how to be more proactive in your community, and this is a great way to get started.
Join us every Friday on Max Fun or wherever you get your podcast.
Minority Corner,
because together we're the majority.
The Flophouse is sponsored in part by Squarespace. Now, you all know Squarespace. You've been listening for a while, unless you are listening to the first episode, in which case, welcome. I hope you enjoy the nonsense. But Squarespace is a service that allows you to create a beautiful...
Now, Dan, when you said listening to the first episode, you meant listening to this episode, listening to the show for the first time.
I'm saying this is the first episode that you made. Perhaps, I don't want to assume. Every episode might be someone's first episode.
Yeah. But you're not saying if you were listening to the first episode of the show, in which case there were no sponsors and I wasn't even on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounded
and also
terrible.
any episode could be somebody's last episode of the show.
Oh, wow, you're right, Dan. Just get with the ads. Sorry, I'm wasting time.
Okay, so Squarespace can help you turn your cool idea into a new website. You can blog or publish content. You can sell products and services of all kinds and much, much more. Squarespace helps you do this by giving you beautiful, customizable templates created by world-class designers, everything optimized for mobile right out of the box, a new way to buy domains and choose from over 200 extensions, and free and secure hosting. So you should head to squarespace.com/flop for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code FLOP to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Now, Dan, I had an idea for a website based on today's movie, and I was wondering if Squarespace might be able to help me with it.
You know
what?
what? I had an inkling you might have one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little troubled. I'm a little concerned, but I'll hear you out.
So let's say, here's my customer base. Let's say you're a little kid, a precocious adolescent kid. You don't have a dad. You want a dad. But even more than that, you want the thrill of poaching that dad from another family. Well, at secondhanddads.com, you would be able to come and look through our extensive catalog of dads who are, let's say, losing steam with their current families and looking for new families to become the dads of. This is not a dirty site. This is not people who are interested in physical relationships with adult people. This is about emotional relationships with children and their single parents. So just log on to secondhanddad.com to know that you're getting someone who has the skills to be a dad and the enthusiasm for a new family that will get them falling in love with your mom over, let's say, a whirlwind Christmas New York weekend. So that's secondhanddads.com. Do you think Squarespace would be able, legally or ethically, to help me with that?
I don't know about the second, but I'm sure that they could help you design that website. Hey, we got another sponsor. It is called Kitty Poo Club. And you know what? A lot of us are working from home right now. Not all of us. You know, many of us have to still go out for work, and God bless you if you're out there putting yourselves at risk just because you have to make a little money. I feel for you, but if you are working from home, you're probably spending a lot more time with your cat. You're getting to see what they do during the day. It's a lot of sleeping, in my experience, a lot of staring out the window, crying whenever the kitten walks through your backyard, the stray cat in the neighborhood. But one thing, and you're loving it. You're loving all this extra time with your cat, you know? Your furry friend, you're getting extra time, FaceTime with your cat. But what you don't love is
Case closed. Sounds like a great product, Dan.
Well, no. Hold on. There's a problem this product's going to solve, and that's that you don't love dealing with a litter box. Well, now, every month, Kitty Poo Club can deliver an affordable, high-quality, recyclable litter box that is pre-filled with the litter of your choice. The boxes are leak-proof, eco-friendly, and have a fun design for every season. When the month is up, just recycle the box, and Kitty Poo Club will automatically deliver a new one to you. No changing used litter, and no more cleaning the box. And right now, Kitty Poo Club is offering you 20% off your first order when you set up auto ship by going to kittypooclub.com and entering promo code FLOP. Just go to kittypooclub.com and enter promo code FLOP to get 20% off when you set up auto ship. That's kittypooclub.com. And don't forget to enter promo code FLOP at checkout to help support our show. I hope you didn't hear the burp I stifled partway through because I'm a middle-aged man who can no longer control the emissions from his body.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody needs Kitty Poo Club for himself, too, man.
Killed them all, burp. Killed them all. Cool. Well, that was great. We got 2 cool sponsors.
Oh, we also have a couple of Jumbotrons, I believe. Elliot, why don't you take the first one?
Sure. Here's the Jumbotron for you. And you know what? I'm going to have a secret surprise. Spoiler, it's a personal endorsement. Every week on Marvel by the Month, Brian Stratton and Rob Milne, I can't remember how his last name's pronounced. Sorry about that, Rob. Chat with your favorite podcasters and comics professionals like John Hodgman, Matt Fraction, Clint McElroy, Fred Hembeck, Jordan Morris, and Tom Scioli about the best, worst, and weirdest parts of Marvel Comics history, 1 month at a time. Look for Marvel by the Month at marvelbythemonth.com or wherever you download podcasts. And I was on an episode of this podcast. It actually just came out right before we are recording this episode, and I had a great time. It's a really fun podcast where they are reading through Marvel Comics in their heyday, month by month, and talking about the issues, and I think it's a really good show. So go listen to my episode where we talked about the birth of Adam Warlock and MODOK, among other characters.
Oh, fun.
And then go listen to the other episodes. It was lots of fun. Marvel by the Month.
Wow, synergy. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Jumbotron. I'm an artist, and throughout the pandemic, I've been working on a project called Pornimon. It's like a mashup of Pokemon and Jurassic Park if the creatures were all designed by a pervert. Me. Now, I'm assuming that's talking about the creator and not me, Stuart Wellington, but who cares?
I was going to ask. We got to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's mostly safe for work, despite how it sounds. Also, there are some tainted Pornimon who resemble certain political figures in cathartic ways. So visit Pornimon.com, that's PORNEMON.com, for all the stuff. Made with Squarespace. Synergy. And there's a couple trailers up on YouTube. Looks like a lot of fun. My Pornimons, let me show you them at Pornimons.com.
One of the more unusual Jumbotrons, so perhaps it catches your ear. I believe there's another plug that your household, Stuart.
Oh, yeah. The Wellington household.
Oh, but now you can't hear.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, all right. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Charlene. How are you?
Good. How are you? I liked your last episode.
Oh.
It had a very high SPM. Charlene's per minute.
Oh, of
course.
There
are a lot of Charlene's, a lot of mentions. So, Charlene, what would you like to talk to us about today?
I have a new podcast, guys. Have you heard about podcasts?
Is it? I heard it's like the radio of the future.
It's of the future. I have a new podcast. It's called I Know the Owner. It's me and a guest. Sometimes the guest is Stuart. Sometimes the guest is somebody else in the bar industry. And we talk about bar stuff. And it's fun. And you can find it. And you can find it on iTunes.
Sounds fun.
I Know the Owner.
What kind of bar stuff do you talk about?
We talk about how I got into the business, how other people got into the business. We have a section called, wow, I forgot what my section's called. It's called,
well, it sounds
great. You won't believe the fucking day I had where it's supposed to mimic people belling up to the bar and telling me about their day. And then we, talk about it. And we have so far recorded in the bar while it was open, so anything can happen. And what happened is the bar's going to be closed, so that's not going to happen. So after today, we will record in other locations.
So in this unfortunate time period, if you want the old Hinterlands experience, you can't talk to the bartender now, but what you can do, I guess, is on a weekend, get a takeaway drink, pop the podcast in. Maybe you've sent in a complaint about something that happened in your week, and you can have that experience of chatting with a bartender while sipping your drink.
Exactly. So thanks for letting me plug it on your show.
Sure.
Our pleasure.
I guess that's the end of the. I guess that's the end of the.
I think that's the end of that segment. Yeah.
All right.
And now back to the show.
Moving on to our next segment, which is letters from listeners like you who are listening right now.
Like
I
me.
assume. Hey, this
That's
one's from
right, Dan.
Alan
Hey,
West.
because Dan, it's the most letterful time of the show. It's the part of the show where the letters are read and we answer the letters. It's the most letterful time of the show. If
man.
you thought there were other parts of the show that had letters in them, you'd be wrong. It's just this part that has the letters in them. This part of the show right here, 'cause it's the most letterful time of the show.
Oh man, you got to give it to him.
I will give it to him that is like the most accurate
Yeah.
letter song I think we've had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to destroy Christmas, Elliot Kalin, you're going about it all wrong, because that just, my heart grew 3 sizes.
Oh no! Well, what about this? Here's letter Q's, there's letter Q's, Q's from the letters will answer Q's, letter Q's, letter Q's, letter Q's, letters, letters. What about this? Wait, are there other Christmas songs? I can't think of any.
No, not a one.
Oh, okay, that's too bad.
Oh, Dan's looking for a way to turn off his computer. I guess he's done.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So here we go with the first
Here
letter.
come
from...
letter Q's, there go letter Q's. Hope you sent us some Q's. Q stands for questions. I guess I should have been clear about that at the start. Letters sometimes have questions in them, and we're gonna answer those letters in this part of the show right now. How does the rest of the song go? I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of that song. Or is it? It seems to be going still.
Oh, man.
I don't understand. I've lost control of it. I'm as annoyed as you. Believe me, I wish I could stop it. At this point, it's kind of like a medical problem. I'll talk to my doctor after the show because I can't get this song to end. Dan, you got to interrupt me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This
Okay,
you got
well,
to slay this beast.
Now your war on Christmas feels real. This one's from Alan, last name withheld, who writes, inspired by the Flophouse and because of our desire to not make life worse for healthcare workers, thank you, we have decided we've enough time to celebrate Cagemas this year by watching a different Nicolas Cage movie every day in December. What are some must-adds to our list? This brings up a good point. I want to just say quickly that our Cagemas episode will release in early January. Like Cagemas is a movable feast. It's a movable feast, guys. You don't know.
It's in our hearts.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to come before Christmas or even slightly after Christmas, maybe in the next month. But
guys,
it's coming.
Cagemas is a made-up holiday like Christmas. We can put it wherever we want to. So that was the most inflammatory thing I think I've ever said.
Yeah.
And I apologize immediately.
Okay, what do we got? Great.
So Nicolas Cage movies. Look, you got to do. If you haven't seen Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans, throw it on there.
Oh yeah, it rules.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm trying to look through like what's like a more.
You mean Love?
I mean, you get like obviously Moonstruck. You got to put Moonstruck on there. I mean, he's great.
You got to put Moonstruck
on there.
You got to put Raising Arizona on there.
Yeah.
Maybe you might.
Vampire's Kiss.
Vampire's
Vampire's
Kiss.
Kiss.
You want to see a really?
I'm not a huge Vampire's Kiss fan, but whatever.
Really?
Nope.
Really?
I mean, just for the scene where he goes through the alphabet, it's worth watching. I mean, it's not good.
Yeah.
Color Out of Space.
Wild
recently.
at Heart. Yeah, give me some Wild at Heart.
Yeah, or like Red Rock West.
Yeah, sure.
Or like.
I got
Are we counting Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah, he's great
Into
in
the
Spider-Verse.
Why not? I've got a real fondness for the National Treasure movies. They're dumb, but they're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of dumb, but
Con Air.
What?
Con Air. Yeah. What a movie that is so gifable. It's wonderful.
I mean, just the beginning of Face/Off before the faces get switched, because Nicolas Cage doesn't get that much to do once the faces get switched.
Just the opening tracking shot from Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to celebrate Cagemas in December, I'm not a giant fan of it, but Family Man is his technically one big Christmas movie.
Oh, okay.
If you want to be seasonal about it, you can do Cagemas earlier than these guys.
Some of his recent output. I enjoyed his performance in what is that, Mom and Dad, where he demolishes a pool table even before he goes crazy.
Yeah, and on the little scene side of things, we watched The Trust for this show, and I think we all enjoyed it a lot more than we suspected we might.
The Trust is not a particularly good movie, but him and Elijah Wood in that, they're the way they relate to each other in it is so much fun to watch, and I wish that they would make something else together. He
did finally get to play Superman in Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which I'm a fan of.
Okay. People don't really talk about adaptation that much anymore.
Cage's dying wish to be Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Dudley Moore burst into DC offices and demanded to see who was in charge of
you know what?
allowing him to play Superman.
Why not go watch It Could Happen to You? Why not? Goes down easy.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
That's a fun, nice one, you know? And probably, and of course, Arsenal, right?
Shut up. All right, moving on.
Valley Girl.
Yeah, Valley Girl.
Valley Girl. Carly from.
I will say, do not see Dog Eat Dog. Avoid that one. If you're going to avoid plenty of them, but avoid that one particularly. And you should probably fit in his performance as Fu Manchu in Grindhouse in the ad for Werewolf Women of the SS.
Don't do that. Carly, last name withheld, writes, my brother has worked for all of his adult life in the hospitality industry in Las Vegas. We were watching Home Alone 2 with his 8-year-old daughter, and she said of the Tim Curry character, he's the bad guy, right? After a long pause, JT said, well, he's just trying to do his job. And I could feel the 2 decades of hard work and shitty guests in his tone. My question is, have you ever watched a movie in which a character inspired a strange sense of pathos in you because of your own experience? Love you so much. Cheers, Carly. Last name withheld. I love that anecdote. He's just a guy trying to make his way in the world. Like Kevin's kind of a shitty kid. I don't know.
He's been put in an untenable position where he is trying to keep a child on his own in New York from, I guess, stealing from a hotel. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, being murdered in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
By his kid shouldn't be on his that. He's the hero of the movie in a lot of ways.
I feel the same way about Tim Curry in The Shadow.
I mean, in some ways, I guess the Wet Bandits are the heroes of the Home Alone movies because all property ownership is theft at a certain point.
Yeah,
and so they're just trying to
really
fix the iniquities in the system. Yeah.
Comrades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know.
Think... You go,
I
Elliot.
think all film critics have empathy for the Bob Balaban character in The Lady in the Water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your problem, M. Night Shyamalan? We're just out here trying to make a living.
I think anytime there's a character in a movie who is exists in the movie only to be the butt of a joke. This is not necessarily based on life experiences, except that I've been made fun of many times in my life. But when a character exists only so the other characters can score jokes off of them, that always bothers me. I'm always like, don't create this character and bring them to life just to. It's okay to create a dumb character and have it be funny for the audience, but when it's your heroes are ripping on somebody, and it's you created this character just for this purpose. Come on, don't do that.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why there's never a character in a movie named Stuart that isn't it feels like the character's only named Stuart because they couldn't get away with naming them Nerd Bert or something.
Yeah.
I have a friend named Gary. He's very angry about how he's been handled in the movie.
I will say that I have a special antipathy for movies about slackers. The slacker character.
We've noticed, Elliot.
We've talked about that. Anytime there's a character in a movie who's a slacker, and it's why can't I just stumble into my dreams? I'm I don't care about this person. Not interested.
Your hero is the principal in Back to the Future, who hates slackers as much as you.
I mean, that's not my hero necessarily.
Ogre in the Revenge of the Nerds series is my hero because we both hate nerds. And sleeves. We hate sleeves too.
Anytime someone in a movie is like in the story, anytime someone's trying to do their job and it involves customer service of some kind, and the hero is being the protagonist is being like just like difficult or unreasonable, and we're supposed to get mad at the customer service person for not bending to their will. I'm always like, hey, do things the right way. Come on. It reminds me of working at Barnes Noble and having people come in and demand books that didn't exist, and then get mad at me and demand to see the manager when I could not.
You couldn't write them
magically
fast
produce
enough.
them. Yeah. But they'd come in and they'd be like, "Where's that red book I saw? Where's that?" Oh, someone came in once and said, "Where's the book with the blue cover that I saw a month ago?" And I was like, "I don't know. Who was it by? I don't know. What was the title? I don't know. What was it about? I don't know." And I said to the person, "Why do you want to read this book?"
Yeah.
And they got mad at me.
It's a really gorgeous shade of blue.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's move on. Why don't we? To the final segment, which is recommendations of movies you might actually want to watch rather than this. And trust me, you do not want to watch this. I'm gonna go first, and I will give you. I'm not recommending this movie.
That's very generous of you, Dan.
I'm not recommending this movie as a traditional good movie by any means. Although there are elements of it that surprisingly work. But I'm recommending the
Dan,
movie.
you better not be about to tell me that you watched Hillbilly Elegy on your own and we can't do it for the podcast.
Yep.
No. I close though. I'm recommending 2002's The Country Bears because oh boy, I watched this movie and it is the bad movie that has made me laugh the most since seeing Cats.
Yeah.
I almost laughed as much at some of this as I did. And the funny thing about this movie is it is a weird idea objectively to be like, oh, we're going to make a movie that is about the Disneyland attraction, the Country Bears, which is just a bunch of bears singing country songs, a bunch of animatronic bears, not real bears. Let's clarify before Elliot jumps in. Animatronic bears singing country songs. I was just saying,
before you disappoint a generation of listeners who can't wait to get to Disneyland again so that they can see real bears singing country songs.
Yeah. And this is during the period.
You're going to bring the artificial reindeer sausage with them.
They'll be like, oh, these bears are going to love this.
Reindeer pizza sausage, but yeah.
This is during the period when Disney had a real fever for making movies of its attractions, which only struck gold with Pirates of the Caribbean. And I guess they're making Jungle Cruise, so it's not like this period is over. But
they made it,
Dan.
Dan.
More misbegotten ones. And the funny thing to me about this movie is about a group of bear musicians who are famous bear musicians who broke up, and a young bear wants to get them back together. It's basically the plot of the new Muppets. And no one in the movie particularly makes any sort of deal about these bears being bears. The fact that they're bears is basically immaterial to the story, and yet they are bears. This movie posits a world in which 90% of people are not bears, but 10% are bears, and everyone just does bear stuff or not, but they don't do bear stuff. They just they're at a buffet. They're singing songs, and the thing is, the songs are actually there's a lot of talent behind this movie. The songwriter is a famous songwriter. I can't remember. John Hyatt wrote a lot of the songs. Brian Setzer wrote some of them. Bella Fleck was involved. Elton John, Bonnie Raitt, and Don Henley are some of the singing voices. And in this movie, you've got Christopher Walken. Haley Joel Osment is the tiny bear. MC Gainey is the human member of the bear band.
Amazing.
You got Toby Huss in it. Brad Garrett, Stephen Root are some of the bears. There's a lot of talent put behind this movie, but the fatal flaw is this is a movie about the country bears. None of this talent can overcome the fact. So it's one of those cat situations where you're like, wow, they are really trying to make this work and putting all their energy into a totally misbegotten idea, and somehow that makes it all the more exciting to watch. So I had a lot of fun.
Do bears in this world do anything besides sing? Do they have a bear agent or
there's a bear catering? There's a bear janitor just cleaning up after them in one scene.
there's the kid bear who wants to get the country bears back together, who has no job because it is a kid bear who has been adopted by Stephen Tobolowsky's family, and the other son. In the one joke referring to the fact that there are bears in this universe, the other son is mind boggled that this child doesn't realize that he is adopted because he is a bear. Which is not a bad joke. And then the rest of the movie doesn't really make hay about it at all. It's a strange movie. I can't quite get across how it bent my mind.
I like the idea. The idea that the people making the movie were like, no one's going to be interested in how a bunch of bears started and became a band. We got to pick up after the band's broken up. Nobody's interested in the origin of a country bear band.
Isn't there a montage of Christopher Walken gleefully destroying scale models of country bears music halls or something?
He is committing, Christopher Walken. He is not phoning this part in. He is very angry about these country bears for reasons that become clear late in the movie. They have a history.
Don't spoil it, Dan. Don't spoil it.
Good nemesis do with their heroes, but it is a wacky movie.
Now, Dan, you said MC Gainey was the human member of the band. Why do they have a human member in the band?
I don't know. He's a drummer.
Is it possible? Is it possible he was supposed to be a bear and they just ran out of bear costumes?
Or that he walked onto set and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a bear," and you're like, okay.
Well, the other thing this movie has, in common with Cats, is obviously the main characters are these anthropomorphic animals, and it is not as disquieting as the CGI cat fur put over normal people, but it is a weird look because these are people in bear suits, it seems, with animatronic bear heads, and they fall square in the middle of the uncanny valley. So it's an unusual experience.
Great. Well, it's on Disney Plus. You can watch it after The Mandalorian.
Talking just now reminded me that Cats is on HBO Max, so I think this may be the night when I force my wife to watch it.
Oh man,
report back.
My wife and I talk about watching Cats the same way that some couples talk about having a threesome, where where she's not that into it, but she'll do it for me, So she's like, "Yeah, I guess I'd watch Cats with you," and I'm like, "Maybe tonight's the night."
She wants to be GGG.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to recommend a movie. The year 1990. The city, Detroit, Michigan. The movie, Martial Law. That's right. It's a martial arts movie set in Michigan. We have it's about a pair of police officers, one played by the son of what's his name? Wait, give me a second. I fucked that up. It's okay. Don't erase it. Don't erase what I just said. I'm fixing it. Okay, I'm almost there. Yeah. So it's played by the lead is played by Chad McQueen, who is the son of screen legend Steve McQueen, and his partner.
So Steve McQueen is the name you couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fair.
I thought that was pretty clear. And his partner is played by the always wonderful Cynthia Rothrock. She's amazing. And it's a movie filled with karate mullets. It opens with a hostage scene where our hero dresses up like a pizza delivery guy and then beats the shit out of a bunch of criminals. And the action is shot well in that every time somebody gets hit, there's always some kind of a reaction shot. So when our hero, Martial Law, blasts somebody in the jewels, it cuts to a shot of the guy being like, "Ah, my nuts." It's great. And of course, the villain in a world of hockey mullets, the villain is the only unmulleted karate fellow. That's right. David Carradine is in this movie, and in every scene he's got a really cool stick, and he practices the technique of dim mak, where he punches people in the chest and they die from it. It's great. Martial Law is the movie. Stewart is me. Thank you.
I'm glad we're all bringing out the real big guns on the day we have Alonso here. Someone who knows film better than any of us.
I mean, country bears and martial law. Where's Elliot gonna go? How much deeper can we go?
I feel like I need to rework my recommendation. I was seeing as this movie today involved a child and trauma. I decided to go with a movie that I watched just recently that I had only learned of recently. This movie called Ladybug, Ladybug from 1963. And it's a movie about a group of school children. There's an elementary school that gets an alert that a nuclear bomb is going to be dropped in the area, that the war has started. And they go through what they're supposed to go through, which is that the teachers take all the kids home. And it's kind of about how the adults are at a total loss to really know what to do in this situation. They don't know if it's even a real alert or not, and how the kids are left to fend for themselves, more or less. And it's not like a Lord of the Flies type thing. It's more of the children trying to mirror and make sense of the emotions that the adults are feeling and taking on those roles. And by doing so, kind of showing how ridiculous they all are. And seeing it really brought home to me some things that I kind of didn't want to admit to myself about children during the pandemic right now, and specifically about me and my kids, and how I need to pay more attention to kind of how they're reacting to this whole situation through my reaction to it. There's one scene in particular where this girl runs home and her dad is like a farmer and he's shoveling some stuff. I don't know what he's doing. And she's like, the war started, the bombs are dropping. And he's like, what? And she's like, the war, they're dropping the bombs. And he's like, I'm busy. I've got work to do. Go talk to your mother. And I was like, ooh, well, that hits home. I've had that conversation with my son a bunch of times in the past year where it's like, he's like worried about something. And I'm like, I've got work to do. Like, we'll deal with it later. So, it really struck home for me, not in the way that the filmmakers intended, because the movie is almost 60 years old. Yeah. But it's called Ladybug, Ladybug, and I think it just got released on DVD, but I found the whole thing on YouTube, so that's where I watched it. But it was really good, and it's got some very early performances on film from William Daniels and Nancy Marchand and Estelle Parsons. So there's a bunch of really good actors in it. But it's mostly about the kids. So that's what I'd recommend. Alonso, what have you got? Is it going to be my bleak end or their fun end of the spectrum?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, this is because when you write a book about Christmas movies, you get asked to do a lot of podcasts in December, and I love that. But I figure anybody who wants to hear me recommend Happiest Season has heard me do it about 10 times. So I'm going to go firmly in the Elliot camp and bum everybody out with an amazing Romanian documentary about healthcare It's called Collective, and it is basically about how there was this. It begins with like a fire in a nightclub where all these people died because there weren't enough exits, and it sort of exposed this like government corruption. So this other government gets to come in for a year and take over, and they're trying to work out the healthcare stuff because like a bunch of people who should have survived that incident didn't, and it just the onion unravels, and it's just more and more levels of corruption and of chicanery and awful stuff. And just when they get really close to nailing the people responsible figure out how to use the media to change the subject entirely. So it feels very much about America in 2020. This is a film that's made in a very kind of Frederick Wiseman documentary style in terms of like there's no interviews. You don't get a lot of on-screen things identifying who the people are necessarily. But at the same time, it is edited like a thriller. It's intense and breathless and you will be very upset by the end of this movie, but in a way that ideally you'll maybe want to change everything. So yeah, Collective. I love this movie. It infuriated me, but it also was. And
that came out earlier this year, right?
It opened earlier this month.
Oh,
it is in theaters in a few places where theaters are open, but it's also streaming. It is Romania's pick for the Oscars, so it might be an international film nominee, but I don't know how docs do in that category. So
I've seen it on a couple of like best of the year lists. So
great stuff.
I got to see that. I wasn't aware of it.
Well, Alonso, I want to say thank you sincerely for appearing on our show and for inflicting.
Here it comes. He's going to give you the business.
On us. No. I mean,
apologies
look,
for the 6 weeks part.
This is the good kind of pain. I didn't like it while watching it, but it was a lot of fun to talk about with you guys.
So it's the kind of movie that reminds you how good movies are.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, yeah, this is a bad movie.
Well, and we were getting text messages from Dan while he was watching, and he was like, oh, if only it were as good as Country Bears the movie.
Yep.
Where are the jamborees in this film?
Wherefore out there, country bears, have thou forsaken me? Yeah.
So few jamborees. But let's say goodbye for another episode.
Wait, before we do that, now I'm imagining Dan you're a film critic and you have your criteria you rate every movie on, and one of them is jamborees ?
Yeah.
And you're
Dan,
like,
you don't
once
wanna,
again.
Dan doesn't want to
no
lead into this
jamborees.
bit as Dan, the exhausted dilettante movie fan.
Why is everyone wearing pants? Why can't it be like the country bears? A vest is all they need.
I went into
on the actors, no stars.
I went into Paddington 2.
I don't see one banjo.
I went into Paddington 2 hoping for the best. The lead is a bear. Check. He does not wear pants. Check. Does he have a jamboree? Alas, still no jamborees in Paddington's world.
Okay. Well,
I'm giving this movie 1 out of 6 banjo strings.
As I pine for a jamboree, I think it's time to sign off. Thank you to Maximum Fun for having us on the network. Go to MaximumFun.org for a lot of other great shows, some of them about movies, some of them have Alonso in them.
Yeah, Alonso, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah.
Oh, golly. If people want to follow me on Twitter, it's Duralde, Aduralde. Come for the Christmas news, stay for the socialism. I do a crazy amount of podcasts, and if you would listen to them, that would make my day.
Thank you to Jordan Cowling for editing and producing this show. Please rate, review, and subscribe, as they say. But for the Flophouse, I have been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin, and our special guest has been
Alonso Duralde.
Yeah.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
I don't know what that voice was.
No, I love it.
This is how I feel about Alonso right now. This is how I feel about him for making us watch that.
Yeah. It was very hard to jerk to. That's what I mean by it being a tearjerker. I was crying because I was like, I can't masturbate to this.
Well, I feel like you're not creative enough, my man.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.